In this video, I will be going over some do's and don'ts when it comes to drawing and shading a mountain. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure you check out my do's and don'ts video, drawing a portrait from a photo. Now, the first don't I want to go over is the outline. Don't draw a round or straight outline because it's not gonna look realistic. Also, don't put a lot of pressure on the pencil when drawing that outline. In case you make a mistake, it will be very difficult for you to go back and erase or make changes. The line will be visible. Now, what you want to do instead is you want to draw a soft, winding outline and avoid straight lines. This way, the mountain will look rugged and realistic. The next step is to figure out which way the light source is coming from, aka the sun, and then you want to draw zigzagging lines on each peak of the mountain going away from the light source. So the zigzags should be going away from the light source. Now, what these zigzags will do is it will help you figure out which side of the mountain should be shaded darker and which side should be shaded lighter. Each zigzag tip will create a new peak as well. This will help you a great deal when putting in details once you get to the shading part. What you want to avoid is when you're drawing the middle line, the zigzag, try to not draw a straight line or a line that splits. Also avoid any wavy lines as well. Now, the reason why I want to do this is once you start to do the shading, the straight line and the line that splits will not give you a realistic look, and the point where the line splits will end up being covered by the actual shading. Now, the wavy line will give you a slightly better look. However, it's going to be difficult for you to create other peaks within that ridge of the mountain. What you want to do instead is you want to shade the side that is away from the light source softly. You want to make sure that you only are shading that side only. Don't shade the opposite side with the same tone. In fact, you want to avoid shading it at all, especially in the beginning. The reason why you don't want to do that is because there is going to be a conflict of light sources if you're shading opposite sides. Is the light coming from the left or is the light coming from the right? Also, something you don't want to do is you don't want to put pressure on the pencil when shading, because those lines will be very difficult to blend in even with a blending stump. So you want to keep a very gentle touch when you're building the shading, and you want to build the shading very gradually. This will allow you to add in more details if you feel like you want to do that. When you are applying the shading, the darkest areas should be near the edge. Now, something you also want to avoid is you do not want to put any trees on the mountain, because an actual mountain is too large to actually notice any trees from far away. By putting trees like I'm doing right here, what you are doing is you are reducing the size of that mountain to our perspective. That's now going to be more like a hill than an actual mountain. A true mountain is too large for any vegetation to be visible from far away. Instead, you should worry about just shading the darker sides and avoid any trees or vegetation at first. If you do want to put vegetation later, that should be at the bottom of the mountain. When you are shading, you want to make sure that the shading of the higher peak is darker than the one below it. If you pay close attention here, every time I draw or start shading a peak, the one above it is slightly darker than the one below it. You don't have to necessarily make the entire higher peak darker, but the point where the two peaks kind of get close to each other, the one above should be slightly darker than the one below. You can choose to not draw any details and simply shade the peaks only. However, if you do want to add details, think of the shadow details as sideways steps. What you can do is shade dark, light to create the contrast. As you can see in many of the different peaks that I'm drawing here. It is kind of a pattern. Now you don't want to make them look identical, therefore you kind of want to change the angle of the different ridges, but the idea is very similar. The side that is away from the light source, the sun, is darker, and then the part that sticks out, it's lighter, then dark, and then lighter again. To increase the contrast of the lighter parts of the mountain, what you can also do is you can start shading the sky. By shading the sky, the mountain will pop in front of you. The lighter areas on the mountain will stick out a lot more, and it will make the whole drawing quite a bit more realistic. And this will also enable you to add clouds. If you would like to see a part 2 where I add in the trees, make sure to let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to subscribe. Also like and comment with any ideas and any suggestions. Thank you so much, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.